The world just witnessed something that feels almost impossible. Africa's self-powered aircraft has officially flown 3,000 miles without a single drop of fuel. This breakthrough is shaking the global aviation industry to its very core. For decades, airlines and governments have been searching for ways to cut emissions and reduce fuel dependency. But no one expected that the game-changing solution would come from Africa. The test flight started from a private airstrip on the southern coast of Africa. The aircraft, designed by Maxwell Chikumbutso and his team, took off with zero fuel on board. Instead of jet engines, it relies on a revolutionary self-powering system. Observers initially thought the plane would fail within the first few hundred miles. But it didn't just keep flying, it shattered expectations. The plane soared smoothly through changing weather conditions. It crossed mountains, deserts, and ocean stretches without losing stability. Flight engineers monitoring the aircraft were stunned by the real-time data. Energy levels remained consistent even after thousands of miles. There were no signs of engine strain, no overheating, no energy depletion. By the time the plane reached its destination 3,000 miles away, the crowd waiting erupted in disbelief. Some thought it was a trick, but the logs and telemetry proved everything. This was no illusion. An aircraft had just flown the distance from Cape Town to Cairo without fuel. Powered by technology the world has barely begun to understand. The implications are staggering. Imagine a future where airlines no longer depend on fossil fuels. Where ticket prices drop because fuel costs disappear. Where developing countries leap ahead in aviation because they no longer need expensive oil imports. That future might now be within reach. The aircraft itself is a sleek mid-sized plane capable of carrying passengers. It doesn't look radically different from a standard jetliner at first glance. But the secret lies deep within its power system. Maxwell Chikumbutso has spent years perfecting a generator that captures and converts ambient energy. This generator continuously feeds power to the aircraft's engines without external charging or refueling. The concept sounded like science fiction when first announced. Critics dismissed it as impossible, citing the laws of physics. But the successful 3,000-mile flight is undeniable evidence. This is not theory anymore. It is practical, real-world proof that self-powered aviation works. News agencies around the globe are scrambling to cover the story. Aviation authorities are rushing to verify the results. Investors are already trying to secure deals with the African engineering team. Meanwhile, social media is exploding with videos of the flight. Clips of the plane landing after its historic journey have gone viral. People are calling it the Wright brothers moment of the 21st century. A defining breakthrough that redefines what humans believe is possible in flight. But let's step back for a moment. Why is this so important, and why now? The aviation industry is one of the largest contributors to global carbon emissions. Every day, thousands of planes burn millions of gallons of jet fuel. Airline tickets are expensive largely because of fuel costs. Governments fight over oil supplies because aviation and transport depend on it. So when a self-powered plane proves it can travel long distances without fuel, the entire system faces disruption. Airlines could save billions annually if they adopt the technology. Environmental groups see it as a weapon against climate change. And African nations see it as a chance to lead the next era of aviation. For too long, Africa has been seen as a consumer of Western technology. But this moment flips the script. An African inventor is leading the charge in one of the most advanced industries on Earth. That shift is not just technological, it's cultural, economic, and political. It changes the way the world looks at innovation. The test flight itself was carefully planned. Pilots trained for months to handle the new aircraft. Engineers installed dozens of sensors to track every metric. Air traffic control centers were notified in advance to ensure safety. And thousands of people tuned in online to watch live updates.
At the halfway point of the journée, excitement grew.
Normally, a plane would have required massive amounts of fuel to get that far. But this aircraft continued effortlessly, showing no signs of slowing down. The pilots even reported that the engines felt smoother than traditional jets. There was no turbulence caused by fuel imbalance, no weight shifts. The aircraft remained light and efficient throughout. Finally, as it approached the landing runway after 3,000 miles, the entire control team held its breath. Would the system fail at the last moment? Would the engines suddenly lose power? No. The plane descended gracefully, touched down, and rolled to a stop. Applause erupted in the
Control room.
Pilots stepped out to a hero's welcome, and cameras captured the moment Africa rewrote aviation history. Governments are already reacting. Some are cautious, calling for more testing. Others are openly celebrating, declaring that a new age of clean aviation has begun. Major airlines are reportedly requesting demonstrations. Military officials are also paying attention, seeing potential defense applications. But perhaps the most powerful reaction is coming from ordinary people. Families, students, and workers across Africa are feeling inspired. For once, the global spotlight is on African technology not as a follower, but as a leader. Children are watching the news and realizing that their continent just achieved something the rest of the world failed to do. That inspiration could spark a whole new generation of engineers and inventors. And that may be the biggest legacy of this flight.
Technologie doesn't just move machine, it move mans.
The 3,000-mile flight is proof that boundaries can be broken, that the impossible can be achieved when people dare to dream, and that Africa is not waiting for permission to lead the future. Skeptics argue that extraordinary claims require extraordinary proof. They are demanding independent verification of the technology. And that is exactly what Maxwell's team has invited. The engineers have opened their data to global regulators and aviation experts. Flight logs, energy output measurements, and system diagnostics are being shared. This transparency has surprised many critics. Instead of hiding the technology, the team is putting it under the spotlight. And the results so far appear legitimate. Energy readings show a consistent flow that defies conventional explanations. The aircraft never drew from batteries that could have secretly been pre-charged. There were no fuel reserves hidden on board. Every inspection has confirmed the claim. This plane truly powered itself for 3,000 miles. For airlines, this is both exciting and terrifying. Exciting because operating costs could collapse if fuel is removed from the equation. Terrifying because it disrupts their business models and investments in conventional fleets. Airbus, Boeing, and other major players are quietly monitoring developments. Some insiders say meetings are already being scheduled to explore partnerships. Others fear a race is about to begin. If one company can dominate self-powered aviation, the entire balance of the industry will shift. Governments are also preparing for that reality. Imagine an African airline offering routes at half the price of Western carriers. Imagine air cargo moving without the burden of fuel expenses. Trade, tourism, and logistics across Africa could explode with growth. And suddenly, Africa would not just be a participant in global aviation, but a leader. This is why many African nations are already positioning themselves to adopt the aircraft. Airports are exploring how to integrate self-powered fleets. Training programs for pilots are being considered. And universities are adding new courses in advanced energy engineering. But there are challenges ahead. The aviation industry is heavily regulated. It will take years for global authorities to officially certify the technology. Safety tests will need to be repeated thousands of times. Engineers will need to prove reliability in all weather conditions. And international agreements will need to address how to classify self-powered aircraft. Despite these hurdles, momentum is unstoppable. Once the world sees a successful 3,000-mile flight, it cannot be ignored.
The public demand for cleaner, cheaper aviation will only grow louder.
And investors will not want to be left behind. In fact, some reports suggest venture capital firms are preparing billion-dollar offers. But Maxwell has said in interviews that this technology is not just about profit. It is about freeing humanity from energy dependence. That vision resonates deeply with people worldwide, especially in Africa, where millions live without reliable electricity. If an aircraft can be self-powered, why not homes, schools, and hospitals?
The technology could spread far beyond aviation.
It could power cars, trains, and even entire cities. And that possibility has made the 3,000-mile flight a global turning point. Still, questions remain about how the system works. Maxwell describes it as harvesting ambient energy from the environment. It is not solar, not wind, and not conventional battery storage. Instead, it draws from a constant field of natural energy. The details are still a closely guarded secret, but the performance speaks for itself. The aircraft didn't just fly, it thrived under extreme conditions. It handled storms, crosswinds, and altitude changes without difficulty. That kind of resilience will be crucial if the technology is to scale. Already, engineers are planning the next flights. A 5,000-mile journey is being considered to push the limits even further. There.
Istokov à transatlantique démonstration.
Imagine a self-powered plane flying from Lagos to New York without fuel. That single flight would rewrite aviation history forever. And if it succeeds, no one will be able to dismiss the technology again. For now, the 3,000-mile flight has done its job. It has forced the world to pay attention. It has shown that innovation is not limited to Silicon Valley or Europe. And it has placed Africa firmly on the map as a hub of breakthrough technology. The story of this aircraft is more than a technical achievement. It is a story of belief, perseverance, and vision. A reminder that even in the face of doubt, determination can lead to miracles. When the plane touched down after 3,000 miles, it wasn't just an aircraft landing. It was the landing of a new era in human history. One where energy scarcity no longer controls progress. One where flight is no longer bound by fuel. And one where Africa stands at the forefront of global innovation. The self-powered aircraft's journey has only just begun. But its first step, a 3,000-mile flight without fuel, has already changed the world.